So hello everyone, for this video we will continue with our discussion on HTML, and this is for lesson 3. So for the outline of this discussion, we will discuss unordered and ordered lists. So we will define also and expand further on the different styles or type attributes that you could apply on unordered and ordered lists. We will also learn to create nested lists. So that will make it a bit challenging for everyone. And then we will continue to discuss other elements that may not have been emphasized in the first video. So in the first video I mentioned some of this, but we will expand further and give examples of these in this video that we're about to create, or you're about to view. Alright, so we will be discussing about the mark element, or the mark tag in HTML. We will also learn how to use the ins tag, which is used to insert text. We will also learn how to pre-format your text, okay, because there are some challenges in how to use the paragraph tags in HTML. So if you want to format your text in advance, you can use the pre-formatted text option. Another tag that we will learn for this video is how to use the block quote, also how to add quotes into your code, abbreviations, and how to link your codes to your email, how to create bigger headings if, for instance, you want to create headings that are bigger than your H1 tag. And then we will learn how to create or how to change the text color, how to change your background color, the size of your text, the alignment, and the type or the style of your font. So I hope that you will enjoy this video and learn a lot from this. So let's start with the ordered and the unordered list. So what's the difference? Now, in layman's term, you have been exposed to your word processing software like Microsoft Word. When you say unordered list, it's simply the bullet list. The ordered list is your numbered list. So here is an example of an unordered list. And on this side, the items that are marked 1, 2, and 3 are examples of your ordered list. So later on, you will also be able to learn how to change the symbol that is being used here by default. And we will tackle that in the later slides for this particular video. So moving on, let's start with the unordered list. So the unordered list is pretty straightforward in HTML. It is enclosed in ul/ul tags. So if you have li/li tags on your tag, it actually indicates or specifies each individual list or items in your unordered list. So you have li/li, you have 3 of that, and so that explains why in your output you also have 3 items or 3 bullets with the words item on each. So the way you specify that this is an unordered list is to enclose them with the ul/ul tags. So later on you will understand, or you will learn, that you can actually change this into an ordered list very simply by just changing the ul here to ol. Alright, so please try to remember that. So there are 3 items here because you have 3 li/li or list items inside your ul/ul tags, and so that simply means it's an unordered list. And since that the type of symbol that is used is not specified, and so that means it will use the default symbol, which is this. Okay, so that is actually an example of a disk, and that's the default setting. So there are 3 other designs that you can use in HTML. You have the disk, which sets the list item marker to a bullet. That's the default. So that's why earlier in the previous slide, since the type of marker or symbol was not specified, so therefore it used the default symbol, which is the disk. Now there are 2 other icons that you are or designs in your bullet list that you could use, and that's the circle and the square. Alright, so later on we'll also learn how to remove the mark on each of those unordered lists. So let's first try to change the design of your unordered list. So if you don't want to use the default setting, you actually have two options here. And now please take note that the style element or the style attribute here is already an introductory lesson to your CSS. And so first, these two codes will actually give you the same output, and that is the sample output on the right side of your screen. So one option that you can have is, if you use an unordered list, you can use the style attribute, wherein you can put inside your double quote list style type colon, and then you specify the type of design that you want for that particular unordered list. So in this case here, it's circle. Note that you can use either bullet, circle, or square. And here, so we're using circle, that's why the output is like this. So another way that you can do it is, instead of using style, which is, as mentioned, already an introductory course to your CSS, you can also use type. So type is equal to circle, okay, or type is equal to square, or type is equal to disk. Okay, so you might want to try that out. So going back to our discussion earlier, I want you to try to create your own list. So you can have, for instance, your top 5 items that you cannot go out of your house without, and then use a particular ordered list design that you want. Okay, and then try to pause this video first and see if you can make it on your own. Okay, so we're back. I hope you were able to try that out. But before we completely finish our discussion on unordered list, I'm going to discuss with you some nested unordered list examples. Alright, so if you want, for example, to create a list within a list. So in this case here, you have 1 and 2 under the first item. Now all you have to do is to create another pair of your UL/UL tags. As you can see here, after the first item in your list, you have UL type is equal to square, and then you have 2 items before we end that particular code with another /UL tag. So that means to say that under the first item specified, or that uses circle as the design, you're going to create another UL list, unordered list, and that's going to use square as the design. And then you have 2 items with the text 1 and 2, and then you have the continuation of the 2 other items that you want to include, that's still part of your unordered list that uses the circle as the design. So that's how you create a nested unordered list. So you can have a list or an unordered list within another unordered list, which is also another unordered list. So there's actually no limit for the number of unordered lists that you can create. So you can also create items under the second item and another list under your third item. Alright, so for the challenge, please use the style attribute to do the same thing, and then also apply nested list into the file that you are working on right now. Okay, so I hope you found time to do the things that I said earlier. So I hope you tried to use the style instead of type, which was given to you in the previous slide, and so and also tried to create other nested lists. So let me give you the answer to that particular challenge. So instead of using type here, so we're using type attribute to change the first item to circle, and then the nested one into square, using also the type attribute. So how do you create it using using style. So using style, you simply have to say UL style, list style type, colon, circle, and then list type, style type, colon, square. So basically exactly the same HTML code. It's just that you're changing the type into style using the specified syntax. So please, if you have noticed here, you just say type is equal to circle. Here you have to specify list style type, colon, circle, square, or disk, whatever it is that you prefer. Now please note that in the previous slide I also mentioned that there's another type, which is the one that has no symbol. And so how do you use that? So very simple. All you have to do is to select none. So using style, you can say list style type, colon, none, and that will still create the unordered list, but there will be no bullets, or there will be no symbol preceding your item. Alright, so for this particular challenge, I want you to try out other types of bullets using the style or the type attribute and create other nested lists. So I'll give you time to pause your video once again and then try out and maybe backtrack on other parts of the video to review the code and then try it on your own. So practice makes perfect. Okay, so we are done discussing the unordered list, and for this part of the video, I'm going to discuss about ordered list. I already mentioned earlier that it's actually pretty simple. Using the unordered list, we used UL as the code, but for ordered list, we simply need to change the UL into OL, which stands for ordered list. And so as you can see here, since there are 3 li/li or lists in your ordered list, you will be able to come up with 3 items automatically numbered 1, 2, and 3 in your output in your browser. Okay, so you might also want to pause the video at the moment and then change whatever you have created earlier from UL to OL. Right, so if you are interested in how to change the design, so as you can see in the previous slide, even if you don't specify the type of symbol that will be used, now here it's using numbered list, it automatically numbers it 1, 2, and 3. So the default setting is that the type is equivalent to 1. This means that the list items will be numbered with numbers. So you have 3 items that will be numbered 1, 2, and 3. If you have 5 items that will be numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so forth. Now other options that you can use is to use capital letter A, and that will number your items with uppercase letters starting from letter A. If you want to use small letters, you use small letters or small letter A, right? When you specify type is equal to. And then if you want to use the uppercase Roman numbers, you use the Roman letter I in your type. And if you want to use the lowercase Roman number, you may also use the small letter I. So these are the 5 options that you can use, and you simply need to use type is equal to and then these options here. So for instance, if you want to specify that the type of number you want is 1, 2, and 3, you can say type is equal to 1. Although at this point, it may be still, since it is the default setting, it may be optional. So doing this will create 3 items because you have 3 li/li codes here. And that will be numbered 1, 2, and 3. You have Samsung, Apple, and Xiaomi. Right? So if you change this one to small letter I, for instance, then instead of using numbers 1, 2, and 3, it will use the Roman numeral 1, 2, and 3 in small letters. You change this one to capital I, and that will also be in capital letters. So it's actually very simple once you understand the logic. So the challenge at this point is I want you to try out other types of numbered lists. You use capital A, small letter I, capital I, and you try to use and add the number of items in your ordered list. Okay, so we're back, and I hope that you will take on the challenge to find out how to create this. So in your unordered list earlier, we learned how to create nested lists. So this time, I would like to challenge you to create a nested ordered list. So in the outer list, I want you to use capital Roman numerals. So you have Samsung, Apple, and Xiaomi. And then in your nested list, which is under the first item, Samsung, I want you to use capital letters A, B to specify Note series and Galaxy. Alright, so good luck. Okay, welcome back. I hope that was pretty quick for you as well. So to come up with this particular output, all you have to do is to change or to specify your outermost OL type to capital I. And here you indicate Samsung, you have Apple and Xiaomi. Now under your first list, which is Samsung, you create another OL list, which is going to use capital A as a type, and that will display Note series and Galaxy using capital letters A and B. Now, so perhaps at this point, you might also challenge yourself, try to mix your ordered list and your unordered list. Okay, again, I want you to try mixing a nested list of ordered and unordered lists. So let's say that you have Samsung, Apple, and Xiaomi using capital Roman numerals, and then for Note series and Galaxy, you use bullets or unordered list. Okay, so you might want to try and pause the video again and see if you could do that on your own. Okay, but in the meantime, I'm going to continue the discussion with the third type of list, which is what you call the HTML description list. So the HTML description list consists of three elements. You have DD, which is used to define a description list. DT is used to define the description term. And then you have DD, which is used to describe the term in the description list. So as you can see here, you have DL, which is the description list, and then you have DT, which is the description term. So you have the terms are word and sentences, so that explains why you have word and sentence here. And then you have DD, or the description DD here, which is used to define the description term, which is here DD/DD. So we are basically just including the definition of word and including the definition of sentence. And how will it be displayed on your screen in your browser? It will look like this. So as you can see, you have word and sentence, and while it is not actually layout, it's actually not laid out in that particular output in your HTML file, it will be displayed like this. Alright, so it will be indented and it will highlight the word or the term from the description or the meaning. Okay, so challenge, I want you to define your top 3 favorite words using the description list. So just edit your HTML file, the one that you worked on for your ordered and unordered list, and I want you to add a description list. Okay, so we're done with our ordered, unordered, and the description lists. We move on to the other items that I feel is very important to learn in HTML. And the first one is going to be the mark element. So the HTML mark element defines the text that should be highlighted or marked. So simply, you just put mark/mark in the part of your document or part of your content that you want to highlight, and that will appear like this in your browser. So isn't that also very interesting? All right, so just use the mark. I know that I have already shared a slide with you in lesson number 1 where you're supposed to also learn these things, but I just want to emphasize and make sure that you really are assisted in your learning for these particular elements in HTML. The next one that I want to share with you is the ins tag. So the ins is simply to use the as you can see here, you have del/del. So you have two tags here. The ins is actually to insert a particular text. So side by side here, we have del. So del is simply going to crash out a particular text in your document or in your output. So you have here del/l /del enclosing the word rose. So it will appear as if it is crossed out. And then you have ins/ins for the lily. And that will insert the word lily underlined right next to the one that you have deleted. So that's another two elements that I want you to also learn. So I have a tip, and I know that I also mentioned this in video number 1. Please remember that whenever you use the p/p tags, it doesn't matter how many lines you skipped or spaces you include in your text. It will really just be displayed like this, as if you only have one space and no skipped lines in between. So of course, if you're going to make your browser, the width of your browser smaller, then the rest of the text will go to the next or wrap around the next line. But basically, whatever layout you put in your HTML file will not necessarily be appearing in your browser. All right, so what should you do? Now, there's actually the question is, what if you want to display the text exactly as how you specify it in your HTML file? So all you have to do is to use the pre/pre elements in HTML. So the text inside the pre element is displayed in a fixed width font, usually Courier, and it preserves both spaces and the line breaks. Unlike the example that I've shown you earlier, wherein if you use the p/p tag, it will remove the extra spaces and line breaks. So you want to display this poem, for instance, with this extra spaces in between the lines. So just or enclose it with the pre/pre tags, and it will appear like this on your screen. Another interesting tag that I want you to learn is the black quote. So black quote element defines a section that is quoted from another source. So for instance, you want to specify that there's a part of the content in your website that is taken from somewhere else. So here, notice that you have black quote site is equal to https://su.edu.ph. So supposing that this paragraph is taken from su.edu.ph and you want to give credits to the website that it was taken from another source. So you use black quote site is equal to, and then the site where you took or you supposedly quoted these lines of text are, okay, so the document where you got the lines of documents from. All right, so and then you put the text and then enclose it with a /black quote, and how it will appear on your website is going to be this. Okay, so it's black quote for quotations. Another question that you might also find interesting is, how are you going to display quotes in your output for your website? So remember that we have specified that for every attribute that you put into your tags, you have to enclose it by double quotes, especially if you have 2 words for the attribute. So in this case, if you want to put a double quote on your text, so as you can see here, you have trust that, say for example, you want to enclose "you will be unstoppable if you believe in yourself" in double quotes, then all you have to do is to put the Q/Q code, and it will be displayed with a quotation. Okay, so at this point, I want you to pause again and review the last few slides in this video and try to incorporate it into your HTML file. Next, we have the abbreviation tag, which is the ABBR or ABRE. So the tip here is that we use the global title attribute to make the abbreviation or acronym description visible when you hover your cursor over your element. So what happens here is that when you hover your mouse over SU, right? It is supposed to display Silliman University. So this is usually used if you're using abbreviations in the content of your website and you want to define what that particular abbreviation means. So as you can see here, you have the tag ABBR or ABBR, and then you have the title attribute is equal to the text that you want to display if the mouse is hovered over the text that is inside this tag. So if in this case here, because the letters SU is enclosed within the abbreviation tag, then it will display Silliman University when you hover your mouse over it. So that's where you want to create the trigger. Alright, so that's actually very simple but very important in creating websites. The next one is how do you make a link so that whenever that link or that a hyperlink is clicked, it will open the default program that is used to create emails or draft emails. So all you have to do is to use the anchor tag again. So if you remember, we already defined or used the anchor tag in the second video where we learned how to create hyperlinks. Okay, so but this time you say href is equal to mail to colon and then the email address that you want to use by default if or when the words enclosed by a/a is clicked. So in this case here, the word or the words, okay, so because you can put words here, not just the words. So in this example, we have send mail. So since send mail is enclosed with the anchor tag here, a/a, then that means to say that it will make send mail clickable, and when you click on send mail, it will trigger and allow the user to open the default application used to create web pages like your Outlook, and then it will used to create emails rather, and in this case, for example, Outlook, and it will use janicebforce@su.edu.ph as the recipient of that email and allow you to compose the email or allow your users or viewers of your website compose an email. Okay, another one is we have already discussed H1 to H6. So H1 is the biggest heading and H6 is the lowest one. Now, however, if even though the HTML heading has a default size, you can still specify the size for any heading with the style attribute using the CSS font size properties. As mentioned earlier, we're already touching a bit of the CSS settings here. So you use style is equal to font size and then followed by the colon and then the size that you want. So this one is in pixels again. So 60px. Now please note that there is no space in between, and then it ends with a semicolon and then with a double quote. So this means that bigger one will be displayed bigger like this. Okay, so you have bigger one. This is not the usual heading one that you can usually find or that you have probably tried in the previous videos. Another one that I want to discuss with you is the HTML style. So HTML style is used to style or to add style to an element such as color, font size, and others. So let's start with the background color. So you can use the style is equal to background dash color and then colon followed by the color that you want to use. In this case, powder blue, to change the background of your website. So in this case here, instead of the usual white background, your background will now be changed to powdered blue. Now, if, for instance, you only want to change the background color of a specific paragraph or element in your page and not the entire page, so you can actually specify that in your H or heading and your paragraph elements. So here you have style, background color, and colon powder blue, and then background color colon tomato. So that explains why you now have a different color for the heading and a different color for your paragraph. So once again, please take note of this code, style and then background color, and then followed by a colon, and then the color that you want to use for that particular part of your document or website. Okay, now you can also use a different way of using or changing the background color, which is not normally used for CSS, and that is the attribute BG color. So using the BG color attribute, you can either use the color name, the RGB value, which is the red, green, blue value, starting from 0 to 255, and the equivalent, or the equivalent hexadecimal number. So you can choose between the three of these, and I'm sharing with you the color name, the color hexadecimal value, and the color or the output that you will find. So as you can see here, you have, for instance, you can say body color is equal to coral, or body color or BG color is equal to FF7 F50, or of course you can also use the equivalent RGB value, but I don't normally recommend that because it's difficult to remember the hexadecimal or the RGB value, but you can use the color name instead. Okay, now another thing that I want you to learn is how to change the color or the color of your text. Alright, so in this case here, just simply say style is equal to color and then the color that you want for the text. So in this case here, because color red is placed, or style is equal to color red is placed in your heading, so that explains why sample heading is now using red. So regardless of the amount of text you have inside your h1/h1 tag, it will use the red color. And for the paragraph here, we're using blue. So regardless of the number of sentences you have in this particular paragraph, the color that will be used by that text is still going to be blue. Okay, and then we also have here, and I want to include how do you define a font. So you can define a font using style, again, is equal to font family and then the name of the font that you want to use. So in this case here, you want to use Verdana for your heading, and you want to use Courier for your text. So just say style is equal to font family Verdana inside your heading tag, or inside your paragraph tag, you say style is equal to font family Courier, and that will change the output of your sample heading, and your sample paragraph goes here into this particular font that you specify. So at this particular part of this video, I want you to go back again to the first a few slides, or go back to the particular part of this video where we started learning how to change the background color of your text, of your page, the color of the font itself, how to change the size, or how to change the font style. Okay, I hope you're still okay. So for this part of this video, we'll learn how to define the size of our text. So there's a default setting for our H1 or for our paragraph, but you can specify font size is equal to, and then you specify the size in percentage. If you say 300%, that will magnify the default size of your heading 1 by 3, and that's going to be the output of your sample heading. And now if you say 160%, that means to say that you want to magnify the usual size of your paragraph by 1.6, and that will give you this particular output. Okay, so as you can see, you can actually do a lot of things using the style attribute. Now, then you have here defining the text alignment. So if you say style is equal to text align center, then your heading will now be center aligned, okay, as opposed to the default setting, which is on the left side of your document or your website, rather than, or in other words, left aligned. Now you can also say style text align colon right, and that will right align your paragraph, as opposed to the left alignment that is the default. Okay, so that's actually pretty simple. So again, style is equal to, and then enclosed in double quotes, text align center, text align right, text align left, text align justify. Now and then we have here a non-CSS way of changing the font, which is using font face is equal to. So earlier we used style inside the P/P tag. Now this one is a different tag. You have font. So font and then space face is equal to Verdana or Courier is almost the same as what you did in the previous video, which is changing the font style using style attribute. Okay, so with this, I want you again to pause this particular video, and then we're going to go back and discuss the summary. Okay, so I hope you were able to manage all the challenges that I gave you for this video, and given those challenges, I'm sure that you have learned a lot, and I hope that you will apply this into succeeding HTML files that you're going to be creating. So let me just share the summary of this video. So with this, for this video, we'll learn how to differentiate unordered and ordered lists. We'll learn how to change the style or the type of the attributes using disk, circle, square, and none for our unordered list. And we also learned how to change the style of our ordered list from the default setting, which is 1 or numbered list, to letters A, capital and small letters, and Roman numerals. We also learned how to do nested list on these two. Okay, so using unordered and ordered lists, and at some point in the video, I even challenged you to mix ordered and unordered list into your sample or your working HTML file. We also learned other elements for HTML, such as the mark, the ins, the for pre-formatted text, the black quote for quotations, or the quotes using the Q tags. We also learned to define the abbreviations using the ABBR tag or the ABRI tag. We also learn how to create hyperlinks so that whenever it is clicked, it will send us or open the default application used to create emails, and it will set the default email address to the one that we have specified in our HTML file. We also learn how to change the default or the normal size of our headings using font size. We learn to change the color of our text, the background, the text size, the alignments, and of course the font. So with this, I'd like to say thank you for watching this video, and I hope that you have learned a lot. Please go back, don't hesitate to go back to this video and then study and try out all the examples that I gave you, because that will definitely help you in the challenges and activities that we will have in the future.